You guys, Dr. Ann and I
But
are here
today,
today.
you guys, we're going to be talking about the relationship struggles that nobody talks about in menopause. And I wanted to record this with Dr. Ann because I feel like this is something that gets overshadowed or maybe overlooked just because when we think menopause, we think the traditional symptoms, I think typically, right? Weight gain that can come with that, hot flashes, and I think the mental aspect of it gets overlooked. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, Anne, because I know you work with a lot of patients with this.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that I see a lot in relationships, especially with menopause, and I've heard this from a number of partners. I hear, matter of fact, just had a couple husbands just this week talk about this exact thing. It's almost like they got a new wife. And, during these high emotional phases, nothing makes sense. They feel like they're just getting attacked and walking on eggshells. And then something happens. They're not even sure what happens, their wife thaws and they're back. And I certainly have experienced that, just mood swings going through even perimenopause. Um, Ironically got better for me in menopause when I went on, hormone replacement. So kudos to hormone replacement.
Amen.
um, but it does bear a burden then on the relationship itself, because you think about it, we go through something that's really, really stressful, be it the loss of a loved one or change of jobs or health crisis that occurs. And if we don't know how to talk about that experience as a couple, or even worse, we start blaming the person for something that they're going through, it just creates lots of friction in the relationship and increased levels of disconnection. And the more often that we're showing up and saying, why are you acting like this? How dare you treat me like this? Or what's wrong with you? You're just going crazy. And I've heard partners say this before. What happens is that it makes it really hard for us to feel safe, as women, in the context of that relationship and in that marriage, when we feel like, gosh, like, I'm not doing this on purpose. It's not like I enjoy this. And also my feelings feel super real. Like, I actually feel really mad and like I want to rip your throat out right now. And I don't even understand myself what's going on. And I hear that from both angles. Like, doesn't he just get it? I'm not trying to do this on purpose. And the other angle of, oh my gosh, what happened to my wife? And how long is this version of her going to be here? And lots of panic on both sides. But I think, ultimately what is the critical piece that I see relationally is that there tends to be a really significant relationship breakdown when we actually can't come back to center and talk about this, which has a lot to do, I think, with, for those of us that are going through it, potentially shame that we're not able to control what's happening to us, or our feelings, or not even able to understand what's happening to us. Um, and lots of hurt from our partner that they're struggling to share in ways that are really healthy and vulnerable.
100%. It's so funny that you bring that up because my husband always jokes around. He's like, what Nicole am I getting today? Right. Because there tends to be a few different personalities that come out on different days, kind of thing. And so I know that this is going to be something that a lot of women resonate with. And it's just as confusing. I love that you brought that up because it's just as confusing on our end, because this is something for us as well. We're like, what the hell is going on with our bodies? It's like one minute I'm fine, the next minute I feel like my whole world's ending. And we just like you said, it almost feels like it's out of our control.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's chat about maybe some, like, how would you, I guess, I mean, I know you're about to say something, and I'll let you finish that thought, but I guess my question is how, as females, would be the best way to communicate to our partners what is going on?
Well, I think right there starts it. When we sense things that are happening, and a lot of us learn this, and not to get too deep with this, but I do want to tip my hat at this. A lot of us learned how to address things in our childhood. And what I mean by that is that if we had families that were really supportive and parents that were very curious, and when something was going on or wrong with us, instead of them coming to us and either belittling us or shaming us or lecturing us or telling us that we were failing the family, they got curious with us. We learned how to expose parts of ourselves that were really hurting and struggling. And when we didn't get that, what happens is that we show up in really defended ways in our marriages. And those defended ways, I mean, my preferred mode is just to go silent. Like, I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not trying to like ice anybody. Like, I'm trying to figure it out myself. And when I
Mhm.
come to and then figure it out, then I'll tell you what happened. Um, and the problem with that is that when we do that in the context of our marriage, we wind up accidentally communicating to our partner that either they are unlovable or they're unworthy or there's something wrong with them, ironically. And we do this on accident, and that has to do a lot with our partner, but not being able to talk about this is going on with me and I'm really overwhelmed with it, and I'm noticing that that's happening, that creates fundamentally that disconnection. Now, I hear a lot of wives, and I want to speak to this really quickly because I hear the problem with this is that I have a lot of wives that come into appointments with me and they say, well, when I say that, my husband's just gonna attack me with that later on. And so if I ever admit that I'm struggling with my emotions or that I feel kind of crazy, he's going to use that in a later argument when I'm holding him accountable for something or I'm talking about my feelings about something that really genuinely hurt. And it's going to wind up, and I hear this a lot even with men, will they'll say, is it that time of month? Now, that tends to be a really problematic question unless you guys are as a team talking about it in a really healthy manner, right? If it's not being weaponized and it's legitimately an honest, sincere, kind, loving question, and it feels different, right? I know listeners know this. Niconle, I know that you know this.
Yep,
But
1000.
when somebody comes to us and they're really concerned about us, and they're saying something, like, is it your period, or there's something going on, or do you think maybe that your hormones are kind of out of whack? There's a tenderness to the way that we talk about it,
Mhm.
right? And that opens up the other person to want to release that and reveal that.
Yep. Almost like
But
they breathe a sigh of relief, like, oh, you get it. Like you see it too. I'm not
yes,
crazy. Yeah,
you
1000.
know that it's not me.
Mhm.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
know that there's something going on, right? But when we weaponize it and we say, no, it must be your time of the month, or you need to figure that stuff out, and you need to go to the doctor to address your hormones because clearly it's happening to you. I've heard this actually in session before. What happens is that I lose my partner. And now, not only do I lose my partner to support me through one of the most challenging times that we'll go through, is like our whole bodies change.
Yep.
Like nothing works the same anymore. How we lose weight, the clothes that we get to wear, what happens to our breast, like how we even feel in our own, the temperature, like what, like
Our sleep,
overnight,
everything that controls,
suddenly,
yeah, every aspect of our body,
yes,
moods. Yep. Everything
we're
changes.
not cold natured. We feel like a furnace, right? Like everything is changing and it's scary for us. And now my partner is attacking me for what is actually threatening me and frightening me
Mm.
and overwhelming me as a human being.
And then I get defensive and yep.
And then I feel shame and I get defensive, and instead of me taking ownership of what's happening, I try to spin wheels around you or try to blame you for it, and we don't address this at all. And what's really interesting about this is that even in the research on relationships and on marriages, what they find is that when a couple is actually able to share health challenges in particular with each other in a supportive fashion and actually get those needs met emotionally, just how scary it is to go through that, it actually dynamically improves connection in the marriage.
Mm.
And so we think of it like, oh gosh, if I went through a really major health crisis, that my partner's not going to be there for me. But what happens is that when we see our partner showing up and they're being gentle with us, I once I got a fun story to tell about this, but I love to cycle. I share this often, and I broke my pelvis once, and this was years ago, falling off my bike. And my husband stayed home from work for 3 weeks, and he traveled for a living. He never stayed home before. I was kind of like, lone manship at the house. He was making dinners. He was collecting me off of bed. Like I couldn't move my legs up and down. I couldn't even get into the tub. And he was lovingly putting my legs in the tub and then taking them out. And I was so helpless. And every time I get mad at him, what's interesting is I go back to the amount of nurturing and love that I saw from that man during a critical stage of my life where he could have simply said, you did this to yourself. Because I kind of did. I mean, I didn't mean to, but he could have said, you know what, this is what happens. And, maybe maybe you need to get your mom over here, or we need to hire a nurse or something. But he didn't. He showed up for me.
That's
And in that, we became stronger as a team, even though technically it was something that I kind of did to myself. I didn't want to get a broken pelvis, but and he could have absolutely told me I could never cycle again because of the impact that it had on him. But instead of him saying that, he goes, honey, I know how much you love it. I know you're going to return to it. Can we just take a little break from this for a little bit just to make sure that you're healed? Because I'm so worried about you.
mm.
And us being able to share that actually increased my trust of who he was as a man and his willingness to love me, even when I couldn't be my best.
Mm-hmm. Is that making you feel safe piece of it, the safe space? Yeah. And that's how you
Yeah.
showed up to take care of everything that you needed in that moment. And that's
And so
powerful.
many of us who grew up in families and homes, I mean, a lot of us, a lot of us in our generation grew up coming home to no one at home. We were, the latchkey generation, so we were kind of feral children. We were kind of doing everything on our own. And so when we were sick, it's not that we didn't have loving parents. It was rather like it just was a burden. And it was during a time that just wasn't happening. And so a lot of us as adults never got some of that really critical nurturing, especially even around our physical beings. And I hear some people will say, well, that was the only time that I got loved as a kid growing up. That was the only time that my parents seemed to see me is when I was sick. Um, and so being able to share this as an adult sometimes corrects what we didn't get as a child, but more importantly, it actually connects us deeper in marriage because invariably our bodies mutually are going to fail. Like this isn't just, by the way, menopause is not just a female thing, right? Like men go through their own hormonal, like it happens, men. And so those of you that are husbands that are listening to this, I applaud you for being here and listening to this. And if you're a wife and you're like, I'm going to send this to my husband, please do, and understand that it's not because you're failing things, it's because she wants that connection from you. um, but this does come back around. Men do struggle with things, and we have broken bones, we have hormones that change, we have things that are out of certainly husbands have emotions, especially as they get older, and they have emotional shifts and they don't feel like themselves. All of this is going to happen for all of us. And so learning to come alongside each other and share it and be vulnerable, first step, communicating, this is what's happening to me, I'm really scared. And I would encourage you to communicate that and do it as vulnerably as possible. If you have a partner who weaponizes it, I really want to invite you just to share that. I'm so concerned that I am going to share this with you and you're going to bring it up later as a way to invalidate something that I'm experiencing. But I know it's so important for me to share it with you because I'm really overwhelmed and I need your help.
Mm. It's so much of this is how we frame things, 1,000%. And if you can, like you said, show up with that vulnerability and just, express the same, like, I can only imagine this is a struggle on your end as well. I have no idea what's going on with my body, like, and how I'm responding. I can only imagine the struggles you're going through, and you don't know how to help me because I don't even know how to help me right now. Yep.
Yeah. So for those of us that are listening that are partners trying to support, and this is across the board, this isn't just for menopause, by the way, this is in healthy marriages. What we do when we're sharing, I'm scared with something, and really honestly be vulnerable, guys. I cannot undersell this. If you try to act like it's not a big deal and you're holding back tears the entire time and you're not sharing how sad or how scared you are, and you're simply saying things like, and I hear this, it's just kind of annoying, and I really just don't know what to do. Like, if you're not being vulnerable about it, it's going to be really hard for your partner to match what it is that you're needing because you're underselling what's happening to you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
100%.
I hear this all the time. I hear wives all the time go, it was just kind of annoying. No, it wasn't. Let's get underneath that annoyance. What else? What other feelings are you feeling? When we're showing up though and we're receiving that, what I want to invite you to is the very first step that we need to do is just validate the feeling itself. And if you don't understand why it's scary, ask more about that. Say,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on? Tell me, what is that like for you? Like, I know this is a huge change for you. I know that you've been moodier. How does that feel for you? And, it feels scary. It's annoying. It's irritating. It's like, it's angry. I feel helpless. I feel overwhelmed with this. Validate that. Just simply say, I get it. That makes a lot of sense to me why you would feel scared.
Simple validation of feeling goes a long way. And a lot of times that's all I know, particularly in my own relationship, right? A lot of times I just want to feel validated. And I think as humans, we naturally want that. And just hearing you, I totally.
The way to invalidate something that I'm experiencing. But I know it's so important for me to share it with you because I'm really overwhelmed and I need your help.
Mm. It's so much of this is how we frame things, 1,000%. And if you can, like you said, show up with that vulnerability and just, express the same, like, I can only imagine this is a struggle on your end as well. I have no idea what's going on with my body, like, and how I'm responding. I can only imagine the struggles you're going through, and you don't know how to help me because I don't even know how to help me right now. Yep.
Yeah. So for those of us that are listening that are partners trying to support, and this is across the board. This isn't just for menopause, by the way. This is in healthy marriages. What we do when we're sharing, I'm scared with something, and really honestly be vulnerable, guys. I cannot undersell this. If you try to act like it's not a big deal and you're holding back tears the entire time and you're not sharing how sad or how scared you are, and you're simply saying things like, and I hear this, it's just kind of annoying, and I really just don't know what to do. Like, if you're not being vulnerable about it, it's going to be really hard for your partner to match what it is that you're needing because you're underselling what's happening to you.
Mhm. Yep.
And
100%.
I hear this all the time. I hear wives all the time go, it was just kind of annoying. No, it wasn't. Let's get underneath that annoyance. What else? What other feelings are you feeling? When we're showing up though and we're receiving that, what I want to invite you to is the very first step that we need to do is just validate the feeling itself. And if you don't understand why it's scary, ask more about that. Say,
Mhm.
what's going on? Tell me, what is that like for you? Like, I know this is a huge change for you. I know that you've been moodier. How does that feel for you? And,
Mhm.
it feels scary. It's annoying. It's irritating. It's like, it's angry. I feel helpless. I feel overwhelmed with this. Validate that. Just simply say, I get it. That makes a lot of sense to me why you would feel scared.
Simple validation of feeling goes a long way. And a lot of times that's all I know, particularly in my own relationship, right? A lot of times I just want to feel validated. And I think as humans, we naturally want that. And just hearing you, I totally, like, I can't even imagine what you're going through. I totally hear what you're saying right now.
Yeah.
Goes
Yeah.
a long way.
The empathy is key. So if you're really struggling to experience that, empathy is essentially putting yourself in someone else's shoes. I want you to just take a moment and just imagine, there, for most of us, there have been a time in our life where our body was not performing the way that we wanted to. It could be in sports, it could have been even sexually, it could be even with your own mood swings. But giving yourself the permission to pause and think for a moment, how might I feel if my body were doing this?
Mhm. Yep.
Why might this be scary? And if that's too hard for you, you're like, well, I think that's impossible, that shouldn't be scary, you just go and get medication for it. You need to stop right there and take a breath and think about just the emotion itself, just the feeling of fear. Has there ever been a time that you've been scared or overwhelmed of something? That's all you need to get in touch with. That's it.
Mhm.
That's all we need for empathy. And then we simply communicate that, right? Like, I get it. That makes sense. I've been scared before, or my body hasn't worked before, or I get it. And maybe I don't understand it to the extent that you're going to. So share a little bit more with me. The second thing that we need is we need a partner that supports us. And sometimes all that is just verbally saying, I'm here for you. What is it that I can do to help?
Yep.
Do you need me to go and schedule the appointment with you? Do you need me to go to an appointment with you? Do you need me to sit with you while you're crying, screaming? Like, what is it that you need when you're struggling? Do not be alarmed if your partner says, I have no idea.
Yep. I was just going to say that most of the time it's like, I have no idea. I know I need something, but I have no idea what the hell that thing is. It just needs to be something to fix this.
So keep that door open, please. And the way that we keep that door open is say, I get it. I'm at a loss here and I so love you and I want to help. So please let me know when I do something that doesn't feel good, what it is that I can do slightly differently, either say differently or physically do differently. And that onus really is on the other person to figure out. Now, that being said, I will say that some of the things for menopause that also hold true for periods are correct in that sometimes what we need a really good bear hug. Sometimes we need food and sometimes we need rest. So if you have got, and I cannot, I love this. We've got a 2-year old, my granddaughter is living with us. My daughter's finished up her master's in counseling right now. And so our granddaughter is with us for a little bit while her mama gets her degree. And she has all the feelings. And when she's tired, you know it because she's like rolling around on the floor and she's whining. When she's hungry, you know it because she's like trying to eat food off your plate. She literally has slapped me across the face at least 25 times. I've never been slapped. She slaps me when she's anxious. That is her tell. I do not like that one, but I get it. Right. But one of the things that's so hard for me to do, even as a grandparent, is I've got to stay grounded, right? Like, I can't get upset and mad and blame her for that. I can't explode on her because that just makes her scared of me. And sometimes that's what we do as partners is we just get so fed up that we wind up exploding on the person exploding on us. And sometimes women, we're much more like toddlers than we want to admit, especially when we're overwhelmed with emotion.
Amen.
And sometimes what I will do with my toddlers, it is my granddaughter, is I will just simply suggest something. I'll be like, I wonder if you need a nap and your sippy cup right now. And she'll be like, no, right. And then she's got really good, like she will have whole sentences that fall out. She is such a well-spoken little girl. And she'll tell me what for sometimes. And then what happens is, like, I'll turn my back and I'll be like, okay, I get it. Like, I wonder if you want to come downstairs with me. I wonder if you want to come and, like, go and you want to cuddle and snuggle with Gigi. No, I don't. And I'll go and I'll sit down. I'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to sit down here. I'm going to get the blanket on top of me and I'm going to just sit down. And I'll just be here just in case. And I'll see her and she'll like get up and she'll kind of like wander over and she'll sit down. I'll be like, would you like some blanket? No, no. Okay. And I'll just be quiet and then she'll grab the blanket and she'll put it over herself and she'll just like fold it. Okay. So sometimes women were like that, right? We need a suggestion. And it's not because we're not smart and it's not because we're not capable. It's because we're so stinking overwhelmed with what's happening inside of us. We need some guidance and direction that doesn't sound belittling, just simply loving.
Yep.
So don't be alarmed if we say no. That may not mean that it's a bad suggestion. It may just mean that we're not ready to admit it yet. Just give us a moment.
Yep. And I think there's a space too. And I think this goes just, I mean, going through menopause or not, women just happen to be more emotional and men just happen to be so much more logical, right? And then when those two things really collide and we're just in the most heightened emotional state that we've ever been in, and we can't figure out why, which makes us even more emotional. And when I get emotional, I get frustrated. And when I get frustrated, I cry, and then I'm crying and I don't know why I'm crying, but I'm crying because I don't know why I'm crying. And so it's just like all of these things. And then here I have my husband who's so logically trying to figure out what's going on. And like, just like, it's almost like a math equation, right? And he's like, the math's not mathing here. And I'm like, it's like, stop trying to logic your way out of this. And then they just do this kind of.
Yes, yes. So, and I can't remember the exact statistics on this, but it's pretty high. 75 or so percent of arguments actually are one person who's talking about their feelings and the other person who's talking solely about logic. And it's because you're trying to fix something that just needs validation.
Mm. Ooh, that's powerful. That is really powerful.
And when we're trying to be like, well, all right, so is it this? Is it that? Do you think this? Do you think maybe your boss ticked you off at work? Do you think maybe this or that? Like, you're trying to fix something where we really just need the space to vent. And that kind of leads me to the second tip for those of us that are receivers of this. Don't take it personal. It's actually not about you. And the way that you know that is that if anything that we're picking up on and we're saying, well, you didn't do this or you didn't do that, and you're like, but I've done that 100 times. Why is that bugging you so much this time? Right? Like, what I want you to reflect on is, what is it that I like that I did? Is there anything that I would have changed in terms of what I did? Did I speak out of line? Was I unkind in something that I've done? If you can answer that and you go, no, I feel pretty good about everything that I've done, and you genuinely mean that, you've been kind-hearted the whole time, all the way through it, it's not about you.
Mm.
Your lady's having feelings, and it's not about anything that's logical. It's just an emotional state that's happening.
Yep. 100%. Let's talk about, and I think this is probably the biggest elephant in the room and, big piece that impacts relationships as we we go through the stage of life. And that's going to be the intimacy piece, right? Like the libido piece. And that is definitely something, I will be very vocal and vulnerable, like something in my relationship as well, that starts to take a hit. And it can cause rips and chaos. And so I'd love for you to speak to that, Anne, a little bit, because I know for women, and something I've felt during this phase is shame, right? Like, why is this not there for me? And it's not because it's not my partner. It's just like physically, like I just have no desire at all.
Yep.
And then he takes it personally. Like, what have I done wrong? Why? And it's like, I swear to you, I don't know how else to explain. This isn't a you thing. It's a me thing. And I just don't know why. It's just there. So I'd love for you to speak to that piece of it a little bit.
Well, and I want to go back to what I started with, is that communication is key on this. So if you are struggling with this, being upfront with this and just even saying, I'm noticing that this is happening in me, or if you're a partner on the receiving end of this, being able to have a conversation about this. These are really adult topics, and it requires us not to take it personally. And part of coming to each other with feelings is being able to share, this makes me sad, right? So most of us as women can hear sadness way better than we can hear anger. And there's lots of biological reasons for that, but I'm just going to make it really short. Essentially, anger is threatening to women, especially from our men, because they're bigger, stronger, taller, yada, 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 yada. And men tend to get way more aggressive with anger. Not always. Sometimes women can really fight back. But it really strikes us differently when our partner comes to us and says, I'm missing this. I miss you. I miss being desired by you. Can we talk about what's happening?
Yeah.
Again, do you hear the gentleness in this and the love in the way, even my tone of voice and how I'm bringing this up?
And just the difference of how you present it, 100%. Yep.
And what I often hear is a blame game. Please do not start with that. If you have started with that, please ask for, apologize for this, acknowledge that this is not the way that we do it. But too often what happens is that as partners, we notice all these changes and we don't talk about it, and it builds up and builds up and builds up. And then we explode on our partner. And instead of coming to them out of love and concern, what winds up happening is we either wind up coming to them in a really demanding fashion. How dare you not do this? Why are you holding out on me? What's going on? You must be seeing somebody else. Or jealousy comes up. Or we wind up belittling the other person. What's wrong with you? Why can't you get it together? You need to clean up your stuff. Neither is very adaptive.
Yeah.
So talking about it from either end of that, I'm like, this is really upsetting for me. I miss you. I love you. What is it that we can do as a team to actually help this or encourage this? Do we need to schedule a doctor's appointment? Is it to that place yet?
Yep. 100%.
How are we going to address this? And a lot of this can be fixed. I'm going to speak a little bit off topic. I wish there was a medical provider here, but if Bucket were here, she'd be able to talk. A lot of this can be fixed with testosterone, right? So like libido stuff and, that the estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, that blend, and figuring that stuff out. And that is a process, but we got to start somewhere. And even acknowledging to healthcare providers that this is happening. I hear people even that will come into my office saying, what's wrong with me? I can't. And you know where I send them? I send them straight to the doctor's office. So I do all the rule outs for any sexual infidelity, any trust issues in the marriage that would be impacting our libido, our desire, and our drive for our partner. And if all those are kind of cleared up and checked off, then I'll say, you know what, let's go ahead and get this checked, because there's a whole bunch of things medically that could be going on it's still going to create an emotional impact on your marriage. And there might be an easier fix than what you think.
Yeah. And I am going to inject here as well, you guys. I echo what Anne said. I do wish Bouquet was here to speak to this a little bit more, obviously with her expertise, but given my background, I just want to make sure if you are going to your doctor that you are working with a provider who is going to hear you and treat you off of symptoms, not off of labs. I see so many women being gaslit by their medical providers. It is, so very high. So please, 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 this is something why we educate so much on this topic, and just giving you a solid understanding of what's going on with your hormones. And I know Bouquet and I, and I've have so much content centered in and around this, that, educating yourself allows you to advocate for yourself, and your body better than anybody else. And what I see happen, and it's really unfortunate that this is just how Western medical is and our system is broken, that instead of addressing the root cause of hormone deficiency, it gets pointed to, well, this is just the phase of the journey you're in right now. This is normal. It's like, well, you must be depressed. It's like, thank you, Captain fucking Obvious. Thank you. Thank you. And instead of addressing the root cause, and mental health, you guys, is a real thing. And so I'm not discounting anybody who needs to be on any sort of antidepressant, but I truly, with everything in me, believe that we could cut this epidemic in half for women if we were to address the root cause of what's going on via hormone deficiency, opposed to just prescribing it and putting a Band-Aid fix on it with an SSRI. So please, 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 let me say please one more time. Advocate for yourself, because if you know your body, something is wrong, something's wrong. You know your body better than anybody else. So.
And I think sometimes when we acknowledge the emotional impact of the things that we're going through and how overwhelming it is, and we don't have a provider that dives deep enough, and this is why it's so important for you to actually understand what's happening. What winds up is we wind up playing ping pong with mental health providers, and then physicians. So if they ask really basic depression inventory questions. They're real simple. And usually it's a nurse asking them that maybe has had one class and one even at best one rotation in psychiatry, at best. And so they don't know how to dig deeper, and they sometimes miss really important follow-up questions like, for example, are you feeling really hopeless about things? And if you say yes to that, because I'm feeling really hopeless about what's happening in my marriage or my sex life or my relationship with my partner, and you're not giving that pieces of information, or they don't know how to interpret that, they're going to say, oh yeah, it looks like you passed the screen, you have depression, so we need to prescribe you a pill. Which ironically, SSRIs, do you know what they do for libido?
Tank it.
They tank it.
Yeah.
Right. So and so, like, do you feel better? I mean, your mood might be slightly elevated, but we never address the issue.
Yeah.
And so be really wise too about, is this something that is just occurring, and what is it in relationship to? Because that allows you to communicate more effectively with the provider. If you're able to go in and say, I feel really hopeless about my sex life, and this has changed in the last couple years or few months, and there isn't anything else going on in my marriage that I'm struggling with outside of pretty typical communication stuff, then right, like, it's really a hormone issue. I believe it's a hormone issue. And I've heard people come back even from providers that are really bright, very, very kind, great people, and they're still being treated with things that didn't fix the problem.
Well, and this is not me throwing stones at your guys' provider. It's truly not, you guys. I'm sure that they're a fire PCP. Like, most medical providers are not trained in hormone optimization, nor are they trained in menopause. Menopause is not something that really has been studied well into until just probably the last maybe decade, and we're really starting to dive into it a little bit more. And so, a lot of providers are, if they even run labs for you, they're very incomplete labs at that. And they're going, okay, you fall within normal range. And then that's when they're like, well, you're depressed, right? But what they're not telling you is that these normal ranges were taken from a sick elderly population, right? They're not based in women who are still thriving, like within, I want to say the age was like 63 to 67. You might know that age. It was just a study that I had read in one of the courses that I took on hormones. And so with that being said, you know what I mean? These labs, quote unquote, if you're going through perimenopause and you have labs done, they will come back, quote unquote, normal. And so that's why I'm saying I need you to make sure that you are working with somebody who wants to treat your symptoms and also is working and providing you with a bioidentical version of a hormone replacement therapy. Please, 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 ladies, do not go. Most PCPs are prescribing synthetic hormones because they're patent, like bioidentical hormones can't be patented, synthetic are, and it's like it's a money game. Western medical, it's broken. The system's broken. I get insurance covers synthetic, but there's such a major difference in how your body's going to respond to a bioidentical version. It's the same molecular structure that your body already naturally produces.
Yeah, and I want to speak to this briefly, because I think it's important for people to hear this from someone in healthcare and someone who has not only walked this path as just personally, but also professionally walked this path. No single provider anywhere, no coach, no psychologist, no therapist, no physician, no nurse practitioner is going to have all of your answers. Not one single person is going to have all the answers. It is up to you to know what's not working, and it is up to you to seek out the answers. And I've heard so many people in my office process through so much grief because they felt let down by multiple providers over sometimes a decade or longer, who missed really major but hard to diagnose autoimmune conditions, mental health conditions. Nobody ever told them that. I mean, my daughter is getting her practica right now, and she's dealing with a few people that she thinks might have eating disorders. No one's ever talked to these people about this. Like, no single person is going to have all your answers, even if they're amazing. And so if something doesn't fit for you, or something doesn't resonate for you, or some medication isn't working right, or you're still not feeling like yourself, keep searching for answers.
Yep. I could not agree with that more.
And if you go to the provider and the provider is saying, I'm tapped out, or this is all I got, or this is the only thing I can put you on birth control, and you're like, I don't like that, keep going. There's more providers out there.
Yep. And there will be one that will listen and want to hear you out. Cause I know for, and like Bouquet's spoken to this before, Western Medical, they allocate, oh my God, they allot 15 minutes per patient. Right. And so they're just like shuffling them through the doors, and 15 minutes
Nothing.
isn't long enough to really like get an understanding of, even like scratch the surface of what's going on, right? Like 15 minutes is long enough for you to explain that you're not sleeping, you're emotional, your sex drive sucks, and it's impacting your marriage. Like that's about all that all the time allows. And so it's not, again, it's not throwing a stone at your provider. They're just doing what they need to do to get paid as well. But this is where sourcing out some additional resources with maybe like a hormone clinic or somebody who can dig a tad bit deeper. But again, like Anne said, if you know that something is off with your body, keep searching, because it's, your body better than anybody else. So, yep, there's a big space to that. And I know we kind of got slightly off topic, but it is just something that I'm so very passionate about, because I see this happen often. And, we'll have clients come back, well, I went to my doctor and they told me everything was fine. And it's like, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not telling you to ignore what your doctor's saying. I'm just telling you, if it doesn't feel right, I'd probably source out a second opinion is all.
Well, and I actually do think this is an important topic to bring up, because I want to bring this back to our partners, because as a partner, if you're hearing your wife go to these providers and the providers are saying things and your wife is coming back saying this doesn't feel right, or I don't feel good, or this isn't quite what I was talking about, please do not invalidate that. Please do not, well, maybe you should listen to the doctor. Well, you have a lot of difficulty hearing the doctor out. Please just pause before you try to fix anything or rescue them from that, and just acknowledge, tell me more about that. Pause long enough to hear and investigate more. And instead of trying to address it, say, man, what are you going to do with that? Or how can I help with this? I want to keep coming back to these phrases. I know that they seem almost like too simple and too cliche. It can do a world of good not to try to fix what your partner's going through and to let her struggle through this. I know that this sounds goofy, but to let her struggle until she does find what works for her.
Yeah.
And that might be dynamically different for each woman.
100%. Yep. And just, I guess, if there are any partners listening to this, we're just as confused as you are, keeping that in mind as well, right? Like, like I know you're trying, and I think that's kind of where my husband gets frustrated. He tries so hard. He's a fixer. He wants to fix this. Like he's trying so hard. And I'm over here like, I don't even know what's broken for you to fix.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure that out too. And so there is that like a tug of war kind of thing going on. And so just, keep the understanding as well that, we're desperately trying to figure out what's going on. And it might take a little bit, like you do get a provider, and understand as well, it's going to take a little bit of, and I'm sure, Anne, being on, hormone replacement therapy, it takes a little bit to find that sweet spot and the dosages that work really well for you. And this is why bioidentical version is like, it can be compounded to your unique dosage, right? Like it's not, well, this is like, we're synthetic, this is just the dose and that's just what it is. Bioidentical option allows it to be compounded to your unique needs. And the amount that I feel really great on when we're talking, let's say testosterone, is going to be very different than the amount that Anne probably feels really great on. And so this is why it's going to be a little bit of, trial and error and figuring out where your body feels best, and then explaining and making sure that you keep that communication open with your partner, right? Like there's going to be a little bit of ups and downs as I figure out these amounts and how my body responds and where it works well. But once you do figure out that dosage, I'd love for you to speak to the difference, and for you being on hormone replacement therapy.
Oh my gosh, night and day difference. And
Yeah.
and I will say, at the point at which I think I found, and it was a functional medicine specialist, because I went to a lot of different providers and I was not getting like, they kept saying, well, we can put you on birth control. I was like, like, what? No. It's like I turn into like a bipolar person on birth, like always. And I finally found my provider, and it took a hot second, and it wasn't, I mean, looking back now, it actually wasn't that much time. But I made it through perimenopause and all the way to postmenopausal, and didn't have hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings. I wasn't doing all the crazy things like unrolling the window in the middle of winter and sticking my head out and trying to strip naked. Like none of that stuff happened for me. I don't know if it was intended to happen or if I was just one of the lucky ones. But I was actually shocked that one day when I went in, she goes, well, you don't have any of this, this, and this. She's like, oh, read enough hormones. She's like, you got virtually no estrogen, no testosterone. I was like, okay, what does that mean? She goes, well, technically, it means that you're postmenopausal. And I was like, I made it. And she's like, yeah. I was like, oh, that was easy.
Much easier than I thought. Well, and that is when we say menopause can be your new prime. Like if you get on top of your game leading into perimenopause, when you start to experience these symptoms and
Yes.
because menopause is hormone deficiency, you guys, like our bodies stop producing these key hormones. And so replacing them at amounts to where you feel good, it's going to be a key piece for you thriving and feeling good through menopause. Right. And so of course, I'm going to interject this piece. While as much as hormones play a massive role and we need them to feel better, the lifestyle piece of this is, I mean, of course, like that is going to be right there with replacing your hormones. So if you are not fueling your body correctly and you are not moving it daily and you're not strength training and you're not adding muscle to your frame and you're not prioritizing sleep obviously gets impacted as hormones start to decline, but you're not doing those lifestyle key pieces of it, you'll feel slightly better, but it's not going to be nearly as impactful if those two things, I mean, it's the yin to the yang, the peanut butter to the jelly kind of thing. So
yeah. And partners, we can encourage this. We can go on walks with our wives. We can suggest things. We cannot force it. We cannot make them. We cannot get upset if they don't want to take it. You can lead the way and model this. You'd be like, hey, do you want to go on a walk tonight? No, I don't. Okay, fine. I'm going to go on a walk. I'd love for you to join me so that we could talk. Those are like magic words to women, right? But offering that support without the judgment is really, really helpful. And we'll get through this. I think the biggest lie that I hear women across the board want to believe is this. You said it earlier, Nicole. This is just how it is.
Yep.
It does not have to be that way. And I'm not saying that we're not going to get wrinkles, guys. I'm not going to say that our weight isn't going to shift in certain places. There are some things that are going to change, but we do not have to give up and accept what we think is going to be our ultimate fate, because literally the reason that we get there is because we give up.
Yep. 100%. And I hear that often. Well, my doctor just told me that this is just the phase of the journey. And I'm like, really? So your doctor's telling you to accept the fact that you're going to go to your grave, never loving your body and feeling like dog shit for the rest of your life? That's not an answer I'm willing to accept. I'm sorry. And I refuse just to sit back and be quiet about it because it's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. And I have too many women that we work with that are quite literally thriving during this phase. And so it is more than doable, but it's going to require some action on your end, right? It is going to require you educating yourself. It's going to require you advocating for yourself. It is going to require you getting the lifestyle component in play. But when all of those things, all those puzzle pieces come together, you guys, it's magical almost. Like
yeah, and it's going to require a different stride, even in our marriages, to do those things. We're going to have to prioritize and do things a lot differently. Things that I used to be able to do in my 30s and 40s don't quite fly, right? Like I used to be able to like eat a whole bunch of candy and popcorn at the movie theater and it didn't really do anything to me. Right? Like, and now it's not that I can't eat candy and popcorn, but I can't eat it with reckless abandon, right? And do we have to grieve that? Yes, we do. As partners, we can come alongside our people and also not give up too. We can like stay in the fight. Like, you guys are not dead. Don't act dead. Don't give up on yourselves yet. You can have a thriving marriage. And for some of us, it's even better because like our kids have left the nest and it's like we get to celebrate hopefully having a bit more money and a bit more security even in our marriage. And we can really enjoy this part of life as a couple, sexually, emotionally, intimately. We've got to do all of this though, but it has to be intentional and we have to come together to do it.
Yep, it has to be intentional. And I do love how you spoke to at the very beginning of the podcast. There's a level of vulnerability that you're just going to have to get comfortable being, right? And as females, that can be really hard for particularly somebody like I have a very much so a masculine personality. And so for me, it can be really challenging to get vulnerable when I need to get vulnerable and admit that maybe I don't have the answers or I don't know how to fix this. That's something I struggle with. And I'm still working through to this day, right? And so that's something like that's probably been the biggest part for me is not having an understanding of what's going on with my body at times. I'm like, okay, like I can't figure, and then getting to a place where I'm like, okay, I need additional help. I need resources. But admitting that to, my partner is like, what's wrong? And like, and I want to lash out because I want to get defensive. But at the same time too, like, just like, I've just finally given, like, the communication has like, being vulnerable has been a massive shift in my relationship during this phase. That's all I can say. So just being open and honest and just, hopefully, and they want, they step up to the plate. And like Anne said, my
I broke my pelvis, and my husband and my partner stepped up, and he did the things that he needs to do, and they step up and they, you know, ride the ride with you. Cause it's a ride on both ends, and you have to, you know, and I think it's really important on a female's end too. And my husband really appreciates this. And I tell him, I'm like, this is hard for me. I can only imagine this is hard for you too. You're not only are you watching me struggle, but you're trying to fix it. And I'm like, I know that you can't, right? And that you're struggling with that, but also you're struggling because I'm not really giving you much, right? You just want me to give you something to fix it, and I don't have anything to give you. And that's the hardest part for him. So validating that on his end has been it's been something that's worked really well for us. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All
Any
right,
other
guys. So the
thoughts?
key takeaway: validate feelings. Don't take it personally. Work on empathy. If you can't figure out why it feels the way that you do, ask more questions. Just be curious and don't do it in a belittling fashion. Offer support. How can I help? What is it that I can do? And then offer some hope. But communicate all the way through this, right? And communicate in that vulnerable fashion. We can do that. You are going to have a partner that is just, you guys are just really rocking. And there's so much that can happen, especially for women when we feel emotionally connected, even sexually. Like women, I don't know, men and women actually do things differently, but men have sex to connect and women need to feel connected to have sex. And it works really well in conjunction. So meeting these emotional needs not only brings your marriage together, but gets your needs met as well.
I love that. I love that. Well, I think this has been really powerful, and I hope you guys found some value to this. And yeah, we will see you guys in the next episode. Ciao.
If this is helpful, give me a like, follow me, or subscribe for more.